So spending the money on 2 people to drive back and forth and making these deliveries because the coolers are so ginormous.
Right.
Even a large man would have a hard time doing this by themselves, so you would need the 2 people to make the deliveries. So, and I also, one of the other things for the grant I applied for money for is things like recreational things to put at the sites, maybe to get the kids interested. What I would like to spend some of the money is on, I've already reached out to Brian Davis from the athletic director to see if he got me some information with companies I could deal with, maybe getting some footballs, soccer balls, and stuff like that, things that might get kids out a little bit more, say, hey, let's go play a little pass and go grab a sandwich while we're at it.
So you think there might be a cost savings by closing one or more of the sites?
I think so.
Okay.
Sticking to the ones that are actually bringing in the kids.
We have a meeting tomorrow morning regarding the preschool program, and I think it'd be an opportunity for us to review all of this, because I think that in an effort to do what's right, you spread yourself too thin and ended up causing. So it would make sense to review what the needs are and then look at ways we can consolidate this. So our goal is to make $1.38 profit at the end of the year. I never like to break even. I was like $1.38. It's a nice number I've been playing with. So when I started looking at these numbers, I mean, Southbridge High School, you know, I presume that was the Cole Avenue site.
Yes.
Okay. So if you did the Armory, Southbridge, Cole Avenue, and then the YMCA, might be a good way to test it out and then see what else has to grow rather than the reverse. I think sometimes we'll do everything and then you end up causing yourself all kinds of issues. But build, you know, better to create the need than fill it, rather than, you know, go out and try to do all that. So tomorrow we can talk a little bit and then see what the requirements are and see what the geography looks like, so we can have 3 or 4 well-placed sites that can serve a majority of the population. So, and then we can end up with, instead of a negative number, which ends up chewing up our revolving account, okay, that we can come up with a positive number, okay? So that's one thing we'll talk about, and we'll come back to the school committee and present that as a new plan for a summer feeding program, and let's review all of the grants that are available and so on. Then maybe we can partner with another agency or so that could help facilitate all of this.
Mrs. McLaughlin, and then you, Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was kind of what I was going to get at. Do we know, and I know you're at a disadvantage having just recently come into the district, but what the losses are attributable to? Because when I actually look at the figures, if you look at in 2008, $15,000 income, but the expenses were 38, so the income was 39% of what was expended. It has grown every year since then. In 2009 to 52% of what was expended. 2010 to 75%, 77%, and last year 85%. So where we are almost at a break even, regardless of the dollar amount, the percentages have been growing and increasing. And I think we can look at waste, you can look at staffing, you can look at food costs. That would have been my suggestion too, to consolidate some sites. I know that a lot of places that do receive it are extremely grateful. I do know there's a huge issue with hunger in this community. The food pantries are completely tapped out. And I think it's an important program to maintain. As a matter of fact, when I was just doing some research for this on the website, I saw the Child Nutrition Outreach Program poster contest winners from last year. And the winner was from the Southbridge Cops and Kids program, Ryan, age 14, and his poster's on this huge site. It was pretty impressive, but and they all talked about why this was important to them. It was pretty touching. So I do think it's a need. I think we can do it. I just think, like anything else, we can work smarter. That's what it's going to come down to. It looks like we're learning every year, and now you can do it. I know you can. So
Mr.
thank
Lazo.
you.
I agree with Committee Member McLaughlin. It's been a learning experience. We haven't brought it where it should be. Let's do the history. We started a program, unanimous vote of the school committee, we want to feed the kids and the needy. Totally in favor of it. The philosophy of the food service director at that point was to create Eastford Road, West Street, and just have these sites, open them up, and everybody thought they would just flock in for a free breakfast. Well, that didn't work. So then the food service director, I forget which one did it, but one thought, instead of them coming to us, we'll go to them. And that's when we went and hunted down the cops and kids, can we do it? Then we went to the YMCA. It's obvious that if you go to kids' areas where the kids are stockpiled during the summer for programs and stuff, that would be a natural success, which, again, you see the success. If you can get some sites shut down to the point where we can somewhere get close, I would vote in favor of it. And like the superintendent says, if we make $1 or break even, it's always nice to say we made $1, but to continuously spend $7,000 on something that doesn't work, it's not businesslike, it's just foolish. And as a government, that's why people don't like politicians, because they know how to spend the money. And I think if we get creative as a committee and take the progress that somebody else did and maybe build on it, then I would be in favor of going forward, and I would vote for it. But Katie, you are kind of a breath of fresh air, a different set of eyes. You've seen and you've heard the history. How can you, as a professional, if there's 10 people getting fed at a site, tell them to go to another site? I mean, our thing is not convenience. Our thing is providing the service. Convenience, is something that it's nice to have, but I look at it as we can't keep running 8,000, 7,000, 11,000 in a hole. So, to make a long story short, the ball's in your court. If you come back with a proposal after your meeting and you feel that collectively, the school committee, yourself, and everybody can get behind this program one more time and say, give me a shot, I'm in favor of it, and let's move forward. But I've been told a lot of stories, and I've seen nothing but red. Thank you.
Anyone else? Dr. D'Amico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I overall agree with all different sentiments we have heard tonight. I think it's an important program potentially, but at the same time, I do believe that we cannot continue running programs that produce deficit. We just can't afford to do that. Consolidation seems very appropriate. For example, the library is really close to YMCA. Why do we have to have at least those two sites? They're virtually across the street from one another. So that's the first one. But consolidating to the ones that are the most visited and where really there is something else happening appears to be drawing a larger crowd. YMCA, Armory. All these sites in Southbridge High School have athletic facilities, or they have at least space where other things can be happening as well. And what I would like to see before I make the decision next time is what is the projected total income and where is the money going to be coming from? What do we expect to bring as revenue, the projected expenses, and maybe something we haven't talked about. We have breakfast and lunch at every site included, and based on the numbers, it's twice as many lunches as breakfasts. Maybe we, for a while, need to not only consolidate, but focus on a daily meal and see how that goes in order to convince ourselves that it's going to be really easy to continue supporting it once we break even or we make $1, regardless of how we decide to do it. And then if it starts turning around and it's actually a little bit profitable, then we can go and see, well, now we can expand, essentially, instead of maintaining what we have and trying to fight this deficit number every year. So I would like to see your proposal, where you think, or collective school department proposal, where do you think the revenue is going to come from, what is projected, and go from there. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Real quick to the policy committee for all their help with the charge policy and getting that done. The ladies did a great job. They got in touch with me real quick. We worked on it, banged it out, and it's been really great. And I promise you next year, those balances are going to be very different than what they were when I walked in December. So thank you so much for all your help.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too. Moving on to report of the superintendent, Mr. Neberko, proposed school calendar for 2013-2014.
You have in front of you a proposed calendar for next year, and this calendar has an August start date. I've discussed this with the SEA, and they have no objections to that. And what we looked at was very carefully a couple of things, ways we could consolidate our staff development, professional development days, so they were better organized and also made pedagogical sense. And in that respect, the recommendation is for a start on August 26th, which is a Monday, and I have 2 days that you've always had as professional development, but together. And then the students would come on the 28th. And then the staff development half days would be on, again, on Friday, but the last one would be on March. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have staff development in April or May when you can't put any of that stuff into practice. And then the other thing is I've been looking at the attendance rates, and one of the things the state monitors very closely is our attendance of our students, and ours is substantially lower than what the state expects, and it goes all over the place. And then I asked for a breakdown of it by ethnicity, just to use the high school as an example. So I had the last 4 years that you have in front of you color-coded, and you have the general population averaging around 88%, the white population averaging around 89%, the Hispanic population about 80, last year 87%, and then the Asian population at 94%. And so I asked why the dip, and if you look over time, it was got as low as 85% in the last few years. And they said one of the issues was that a number of students traveled back and forth to the islands over the holidays. And this calendar has a very different December. Christmas falls on a Wednesday, and most school calendars would have students coming back on Thursday, January the 2nd, and not all students wouldn't be back. So we thought we would monitor attendance much more closely, and my recommendation to the school committee is that we have a 2-week break during the Christmas time, and which would allow school to start on January 2nd, hit the ground running rather than starting on a Thursday on January 2nd because someone has a work ethic mentality. I was going to use a religious connotation, but I figured that's inappropriate for me. And so that's what I'm recommending. The 5 snow days are built in, and even though it looks like it's going to end with a little happy smiley face on the 23rd on Monday, but even this year we've already used all our 5 days. Any other additional days would mean extending the school year. So that's the recommendation. I met with the faculties at different schools and talked about this, and clearly the consolidation and the organization of this professional development was our first priority. Second one was to look at the attendance list, and the old AYP before the state created a new method was that student attendance is critical, and ours is 3, 4, 5, 6 percentage points below the state average all the way across the board. So that's a concerning factor. So I suggest we give this a shot, and next year Christmas will be on a Thursday, so you can go back to the regular calendar. But this is an opportunity to see if that makes a difference, because I've heard that from many teachers in the school that during the Christmas time, kids go back and forth and then don't come back right away, and it creates a detrimental learning situation for those that are here and those that aren't. Okay, so that's that aspect of it.
Okay, next, quarterly reports for the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative.
Yeah, in front of you, you have the collaborative. The collaborative runs a variety of very important programs for all of the schools in their district, and they provide a consolidation of effort. When you have small districts like you have here, lots of 2,000, 1,500, 3,000 school districts, it'd be very difficult to offer a school for behavioral students, a school for therapeutic. They provide contract services and developmental programs. So I think they do an outstanding job at a cost that would be considerably less than if it was done with private schools.
All right. And last, we have attendance comparison graph.
Yeah, I think I just explained that to you. So I have one other, speaking of professional development, we had a snow day last Friday, and it seems like there was a little snow cloud over southern Worcester County, and where I live in the western part, I drove in because there was nothing where I lived. And then once I got past exit 8, I said, well, too late to turn around now. So I came in, and I would try to make sure that we had school that day because that was a very important professional development day that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education requires of Level 4 schools to deal with the new teacher evaluation program that was just recently approved. And so we made arrangements and so on to have that professional development day conducted this Friday, March 15th. So it'll be half a day for students and that professional development day to be conducted. It'll be all conducted at the high school, and all teachers will be there with their evaluators going over this instrument and try to put all of this, make sure everybody's informed exactly what they have to do so we have a uniform policy. This has been a long negotiations with the union. Other districts still haven't approved it throughout the state because of the changes in the requirements of unannounced visit. You saw the presentation, the last meeting by Amy Allen, who did an excellent job presenting all that. So I just want to notify everyone that there will be a half a day on this Friday, so the professional development day will be made. It's telephone call was made, little notes went out. It's also on cable TV. So we're doing the best we can to inform as much of the community as possible and as a regular basis as we can.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Our next agenda is school committee actions. A, vote to approve a field trip on Sunday, May 5th, 2013 for the Southbridge High School Band to attend the Stomp concert at Hanover Theater. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Lazo, seconded by Dr. D'Amico. Before we vote, we did have both reports filled out properly in our packets. So does anyone have any questions on those? Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Max?
Mrs. Principe?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mr. Lazo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thanks, the motion passes. B, vote to approve a field trip on April 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2013 for the Southbridge High School Band to attend the Massachusetts Instrumental and Choral Conductors Association Festival Competition at Hopkinton High School. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lazo, seconded by Dr. D'Amico. Was there any discussions or questions on that? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Thank you. I think the wording was or. I think it's not that it's going to be all weekend. I think it's going to be the fifth. Yeah.
5th, 6th, or
Okay,
7th?
depends how it rolls. Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call, Max, please.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes?
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mr. Lazo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Principe?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thanks, motion passes. Next, vote to approve the quarterly reports for the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative, 1 July through September 2012, and 2 October through December 2012. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Principe, seconded by Mr. Lazo. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mr. Lazo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Principe?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you, motion passes. Next, vote to approve a gift donation by the Southbridge High School class of 1982, a marquee for the Southbridge Middle High School.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Mr. Lazo, second by Mrs. Principe. Mrs. Joliker, or Miss Joliker is here. She's part of the class and ahead of that. If you'd like to come up and just say a few words.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Joliker, Catherine Joliker, and I am a member of the class of 1982 from Southbridge High School, and we recently had our 30th class reunion, and we wanted to donate a gift to the new school. We wanted it to be something that could benefit the entire school district. The past few years, we've been having musicals at the high school, and so we knew that, and that program's also being held this year. So we knew that if we got a marquee, a theater marquee, that every school in the district, as well as community theaters, could benefit from using this marquee. We had thought of other gifts as well, but you guys were pretty well equipped with the new school, so that was our interest. So we had looked up where we could get a theater marquee, and I did provide a picture to Ms. Woodruff. Sorry, it's kind of small, but that's a mock-up of what we would actually hope to present to the school for placement in the foyer outside of the auditorium. There are various sizes, and we really weren't sure what size you would want, and what?
The biggest one.
That's what some of our class members said, too. The only thing that's different, if you can actually see that mock-up, is it says Southbridge Middle High School Theater, and we preferred the word auditorium, but we would leave that up to you to decide if the wording is a difference at all. But everything else is that. It's about there's a 50-inch wide marquee, and it has lights at the bottom, so that's something that would be, I'm sure the light bulbs would need to be replaced, but I don't know how frequently. I do have contact with somebody from the company that particular marquee is from, and they are continuing to honor a 10% discount on whatever we buy. I had inquired about it in November, but had been waiting to present it. As far as installation, it is electrical, so it will need a cord. And if it's out in the foyer, I had gone out in that area, and there's not really an immediate outlet. So I was thinking that I don't know much about installing wiring, but maybe the covering so that it blends in better with the aesthetics of your new building. I think it's less than 30 pounds in weight. And
Mr. Lazo?
Yes, first of all, Ms. Jolicoeur, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's an outstanding marquee. We have been calling it the theater because we want to change the image when we moved into the new school. But as far as what size it should be and where it should go and all of that, I really, Madam Chairman, through the chair, would love to see you meet with maybe Mike Como. He's very well versed on where the wiring is located, to see where the openings on the walls are, which would dictate size. I'd hate to see you buy a nice big sign and only have a small area to put it in and all of a sudden create a problem. But as far as the electronics part of it, we have an electrician on board with the maintenance department, and what they usually do is they know where all the wiring is. They have the blueprints. I think if you meet with Mike Como, he would, tell you this is where, he'll probably give you more than one spot to think about where the power is, but it would also give you a dimension of space that you have to use or to work with.
Yes,
but I hope you're providing the leadership right here to tell all the other classes, stop up at the high school and see what you can donate to the new middle high school.
I have corresponded with Mike Como through email and would gladly meet with him again. I'd meet with him in person and go to the site to know specifically where it would go.
But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. If there's no other further discussion, we have a roll call vote.
Mr. Lazo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Principe?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Dr. Domingo?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. And lastly, vote to ratify the contract between the Southbridge School Committee and Mr. Basan Neberko as Superintendent of Schools for the period of February 1st, 2013 through June 30th, 2014. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Mr. Lazo motioned, Mrs. Principe seconded. Do I have any discussion? Yes, Mr. Lazo.
Buzz, it's been fantastic so far, and I think that a lot of the things that you're doing, and a lot of things that you bring forward with process and procedure is really going to set forth the district in the right direction. I think everybody seems to be chanting the same thing. Anybody that's been in contact with you, I know that I've talked to a lot of the teachers, and when you made a speech at Southbridge High School, some of the professional staff said, we're ready to go in the direction. You energize them, they feel like they're rejuvenated and they're ready to go. So when you hear stuff like that, and you hear about parent complaints that are no longer, they're being taken care of, it makes it really, really pleasant to be on the school committee, and I welcome you, and I salute you in the upcoming year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mrs. McLaughlin? Oh,
Sorry, I just wanted to kind of echo those sentiments. Buzz, I'm thrilled that you're here. I look forward to working with you. Wish we could extend that contract a few more years. We'll see how it goes.
Dr. D'Amico?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A little drier request maybe than sentiments of my colleagues. I think it's appropriate that each committee member receives the copy of the contract so we can have it on file.
Yes, I apologize, they're not in the packet. I do have a copy. I'll make sure that everyone gets a copy of that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mrs. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Principe,
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff,
Yes,
Dr. D'Amico,
Yes.
Mr. Lazo,
Yes.
5 yes.
motion passes. Welcome. Next, agenda, unfinished business. A, third reading of school meal charge policy, file EFD. Mrs. Principe, do you have anything to?
I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading, and I just want everybody to know that Mrs. McLaughlin here has taken all the policies that we've worked on. They're on a bulletin board at Cole Ave, the second bulletin board, and she keeps it updated, the proposal, the first reading, the second reading, any of the changes, so they are all up there for everybody to see. But I do make a motion to waive the reading of, can I make, of all of them, A, B, C, and D.
Can we take them one at a time?
Do we have to?
We'll do-
Second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mrs. Principe to waive the third reading of the school meal charge, a second by Mr. Lazo. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mrs. Principe,
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff,
Yes,
Dr. D'Amico,
Yes.
Mr. Lazo,
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin,
Yes.
5 yes.
thank you, that motion passes. B, second reading of the transportation to and from school policy, file EEAA.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Is that, we're making the motion to waive it, just like anything?
Correct.
Okay. So the motion to waive the reading is made by Dr. D'Amico, seconded by Mr. Lazo, I believe I heard. Any other discussion? Mrs.
I
Principe?
just wanted to just reiterate a little bit. We did not change much on that. What we did change, because of the reconfiguration of the elementary schools, it used to be that K and grade 1 was always bused because they were in at Eastford Road. So now it's kindergarten, all students will be bused. Grade 1 to 5 will be bused if they reside more than 1 mile. Everything stays the same other than that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have a roll call on that, Max?
Mrs. Woodruff,
Yes?
Dr. D'Amico,
Yes.
Mr. Lazo,
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Principe,
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion passes. Second reading of the field trips, overnight travel, and international travel policy, file JJH. Motion to waive.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. We have a motion by Mrs. Principe, second by Mr. Lazo to waive. Any discussion on that one? Mrs. Principe?
I'll yield to Dr. D'Amico.
I'm sorry, Dr. D'Amico?
Yes, you mentioned that there will be forms that will accompany these new policies. I think, I would like to see these forms become part, so every school has the uniform approach. We have put now a new policy, and these forms need to be identical for all the buildings for either different purposes or whatnot, and accompany the policy in the book.
What we did was, yes, the forms are completed. Because it's procedural, I gave them to Mr. Nemberco
Okay.
to look over and approve or change it or whatever. They will be in the policy manual, and they will have the file letter, so to speak,
Right.
with the exhibits. And they are all, it's all uniform, and even with the request for field trips, we've consolidated. There would be one policy for a field trip, one policy for overnight, a policy for extended day. It's all one now.
Yeah.
Check off the box. A day field trip doesn't come to the school committee. So that's one form. But the rest of them, overnight, extended, or international travel, which we did not have before, we did put that in. It's check off the box, and then all the appropriate information. Trying to think of what else with that. What we did, we still have the 5 weeks for overnight or extended. For international travel, whoever is sponsoring that, whatever group or teachers, would come to the school committee first for an initial approval. And I'm sure that's done, like when the band went to Italy, a year or two ahead of time. And then the group would come back to the school committee at least 90 days prior for the final approval, so we can see that everything is in place for the international travel. Mrs. McLaughlin, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
You covered it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote on that, Max?
Dr. Domingo?
Yes.
Mr. Lazo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Principe?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. Motion passes. And lastly, we have the second reading of the Student Travel Regulations Policy, file JJHR. Do you have a motion to waive?
So moved.
Dr. D'Amico motion, Mr. Lazo seconded. Any discussion on that one?
No.
Seeing none, we'll have a roll call on that one, please.
Mr. Lazo?
Yes.
Mrs. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Principe?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes.
Dr. Domingo?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. Passes. Next agenda is new business. The next regular school committee meeting will be held on March 26, 2013 in the council chambers. Is there any other new business? Mr. Lazo?
Just a quick update for the public. The money has come in on the Pioneer Broadcasting at Southbridge High School, the SCTV. We got the Ed channel back thanks to Jack Gaddy, who fought for it to get it back. I think the Ed channel's been underused in the past, and I think with the new Pioneer Broadcasting, all the equipment is being installed, will be up and running by the end of the month. Charter Communications portion was $60,000 and $38,000 through the building project, so $98,000 arrived, and it will be in full swing by the end of March and starting to be utilized, promoting much of what we do in the town of Southbridge and in the district. I would just like to say that there's a lot of discussion about the use of the fields and, are we going to be ready? There's a construction meeting that I will be attending on Thursday at 10:30 at the Southbridge Middle High School to discuss the issues of the fields. And in closing, I would just like to mention to the superintendent, I would have probably had a disagreement with my committee members. I missed that meeting. I probably would have given you a 3-year contract because I think that would have been proper, but we probably would have disagreed because seeing that this Saturday is your birthday and you're becoming 39 years old, I thought that I'd wish you a happy birthday at this point and that you would probably handle that 3-year contract, but I thank you very much for what we're getting.
It's a Sean O'Nembrico on March 16th.
And happy birthday.
Thank you.
Anyone else for new business? Mrs. McLaughlin?
Something that just came through my email today, just wanted to let everybody know, the community know, Old Sturbridge Village is offering free admission for all Southbridge residents the weekend of March 23rd and 24th. You need to either show a driver's license or utility bill, but I just want to let everybody know that that's available to them, something to do for free with the family.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just saw that Mr. Garcia came in. I just wanted to let you know that both field trips passed for you.
Why don't you come to the mic?
Oh, yeah, why don't you come right up and you can give us an update? No? No? Okay.
Since you're dressed appropriately.
For you, because Michael Montigny texted me and said, if you're rushing over, and I was like at Hammond Street or something like that at that point. So we are so proud of our music department here. We just, like I said, we had 388 student performers. We had 903 people in the audience. And we've had problems with audiences in the past with being unruly. These people were amazing. They were quiet. When the conductor got up to conduct, the audience hushed. It was amazing. I think it speaks for, what Southbridge is all about. We're not, the place that people think we are. My wife is a Southbridge native. My relatives are from Southbridge, and I'm really proud to be here and represent the music department. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other new business, we have executive session. Vote to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining for union and non-union personnel or litigation to the extent that an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the governmental body pursuant to Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Part 3. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Dr. D'Amico with a motion, Mr. Lazo with a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Principe?
Yes.
Mrs. Woodruff?
Yes?
Dr. D'Amico?
Yes.
Mr. Lazo?
Yes.
5 yes.
Thank you. We'll come out of executive session for adjournment only.